I want to talk about this Joel, you know what I'm talking about, and his strategic location book and advice and all this stuff. He appears on Alex Jones. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Um, there's a lot of caveats to anything for location. First off, any state could be good and any state could be bad. Depends on where you are in the state. That's really what it comes down to. He had Hawaii as absolutely worst for strategic location. But then I could say, if you live on a boat or you're a native and you understand, the natural habitat of Hawaii, it could be excellent. I think the situation depends upon where you live in Hawaii. For instance, if you're in an apartment building, what type of job you have, what kind of. I know property can be very high in Hawaii, but maybe you're one of the people that is not living in the tourist area, and it could be excellent too. Florida, he has the second worst, and I think that's true for South Florida, but I would disagree with that because this guy, I'm telling you right now, he's got a little bit of a slant here, and I don't plan to stay in Florida. To tell you the truth, I'm really thinking about getting the hell out of here, going to Northeast Tennessee, and in the mountains. So that's probably will be one of the better places. Here's a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower, General. If you want total security, go to prison. You'll be fed, clothed, and given medical care. The only thing lacking is freedom. And that's pretty much the problem today because most people, where the hell do they go? Homeowners Association, gated community, something I would avoid with a passion. Those kind of people make me want to throw up, to tell you the truth. And then here's another one by Eisenhower. And I know Eisenhower is a politician himself, not just a politician as president, but also a politician in uniform before he ever became a general, if you get into the details on him. But he's got his good side. A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. And that's definitely what's going on in the United States. And actually, I'm not in with the Christian right, but I can tell you one thing for sure. They got the right and the left, and you got a cat back here meowing. The thing is, hi, what? What do you want? That's Gold Digger. It's Gold Digger the cat. But the thing is, when you have, this has always been a certain code. I mean, what's going on in the United States and what's going on in the world in general is more lacking in a basic code before there was Jesus, even before there was religion. There's more lacking in a basic code than all the recorded history practically, except for Babylon. So that's telling me, we're in for a fall economically, the whole 9 yards. And of course, Dwight D. Eisenhower is the one that warned us about the military-industrial complex. And I could also say it's the state, meaning the political system, and the police complex. What do you want, little cat? And, they are, just fed her 12 times today. But the deal is, she's got to get on the video, man. You got to hear her. The thing is that people are, even people that work for the government, that are in the military and law enforcement, they're part of the problem. Because they only obey what the politicians push for laws, and what's pushed for laws is usually done at the behest of big money or at the lackadaisical type of people that want protection at the expense of their freedoms. And it comes to bite them in a rear end in the long run, Of course, one of the ones I really liked the best was Major General Smedley Butler. War is a racket. It's always been. It's possibly the oldest and easily most profitable and surely the most vicious. That's a no-brainer. That's been like that in this country for 150 years, ever since the end of the war between the states. Every single war that's been going on has been solely for profit. Now, with the war between the states, it was solely for profit on the side of the North, with Abe Lincoln and his big railroads and his big banks and everything that backed him. And of course, J.P. Morgan himself told us what the deal was. A man always has two reasons for doing anything. a good reason and a real reason. And this applies to warfare, politics, or anything else out there. Now, this guy Joel, who talks about strategic location, well, in a way, I agree that Florida's not too good. Depends on where the hell you are. I'm gonna. But you know what? He has Florida as the second worst state in the entire country. Hawaii is worst, and I would agree with him possibly with South Florida. But you know, as far as like up in this area, what? So it's up in this area right here around the Ocala National Forest. That's a pretty solid area because, but you know, one of the problems is going to be everybody might go up there. He claims that Florida's got an inhospitable environment without electricity, but I could say any of the northern states have an inhospitable environment without electricity. I mean, look at North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and all those other places he loves. You know, like in Montana and Colorado, you might have to drill a mile and a half through rock to get water. And you're going to be dealing with temperature fluctuations that are extreme. And in some of those places, even though there's wooded areas, there's other places that aren't wooded. So you have to be you have problems with fuel for fire to keep you warm. In Florida, you're not going to freeze to death, more than likely. You know, that's the deal. Now, as far as the population, it's screwed up. It's gotten way overcrowded. I mean, there's some parts. I mean, this probably is one of the best areas around the Ocala National Forest. You know, the Marion County area and that type of stuff. Probably one of your better bets, but it's not that good anymore. Not at all. And it's getting way more crowded. As far as South Florida, hang it up. Now, I know they also talked about tidal wave bombs and all this other garbage. And if you look at South Florida, it's only about 10 to 20 feet above sea level. Yeah, it would get wiped out pretty bad. But, you know, even when you have a 150-foot tidal wave, it only goes inland about 10 miles. Now, you're talking up in this part of Florida between Gainesville and Orlando, not Gainesville itself, but in between Gainesville and Orlando. You're talking elevations that are over 100 feet with hills. Like, I'm on an elevation over 100 feet, and I'm right smack in the middle. You know, I mean, if there was a 400-foot tidal wave, it wouldn't go even 20 miles inland. It would never even go near me. But there'd be so much displacement of population that the whole state would be a mess. Now, he talks about there's only 2 routes out of the state. But, you know, I can tell you this. You look at everywhere on his whole map. Now, I'm going to tell you where I think some of the best places are, and it agrees with him somewhat. But it depends not on the state, but where you are in the state itself. Like, he rates New Jersey as the 5th worst state for relocation. But I can tell you, if you're in New Jersey and you are in either the middle of the Pine Barrens right here, away from all the houses and stuff, you're in a good spot. Or if you're in the northwestern portion of New Jersey, in Warren or Sussex County, you're in a good spot too. It's not, you know, if you're talking around New York City, no, horrible. You wouldn't want to be around any of the major cities. You wouldn't want to be around Trenton or Philadelphia or anything like that. I also agree that largely around Connecticut and Rhode Island, it's a no-go. But, you know, he loves the Northwest. But when I look at the Northwest, I also see a lot of high plains desert and a lot of not just cold, but extreme fluctuations in weather. In other words, it could be 75 degrees one day and 15 degrees the next day. I mean, that's what happens out in the center of the country and also even in the mountain areas. Weather can fluctuate greatly. And actually, if you're on the leeward side of the mountain, you're not going to get much rain. Now, to drill down in for a well in these mountainous areas Like up in Colorado, you might drill down thousands of feet through rock. It's like, forget about it, man. You're not going to do that. Now, in Florida, you could just, I mean, if you're near the coast, I mean, that's not a good place to be. But even in the center of the state, you might have to drill about 75, 80 feet through sand, which is not hard to do. And you're going to go ahead and get water. If you're down by, I wouldn't want to be by the Bay Area or anything, but some places you can go down 20 feet and get water. Now in Tennessee, you have good access to water. Now some of the places I think that would be really good for strategic location would be Missouri and Arkansas, and Tennessee would be good too. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but not just um, the way he's talking, because every single one of these states, when you're talking about states, like in other words, he gave the example, there's only two routes, main arteries in and out of Florida, which is semi-true. It's not necessarily all true. There is other routes out besides Route 75 and I-95. But the other side of it is this. When you're talking to western states, you don't have many routes too. It's almost like being in an island. In other words, food, materials, and everything have to be gotten right off the land. The western states are in-hospital environments too. In Florida, you got all these stupid protected gators. Food, they taste like chicken. They'd all be dead. There's a lot of plants that growing wild that are edible. There's a lot of animals. Not talking, well, South Florida, I wouldn't, even if you're not in the major cities, I wouldn't like it because it's too low lying that if they use a tidal wave bomb or something like that, it's going to get wiped out. But north central Florida, no, not really. But what is better would be, say, the Ozarks in Arkansas or Missouri. That'd be much better. And part of the thing I'm thinking about is, regulation. There's a lot less regulation, a lot less population in Arkansas and in Missouri. Florida, since it's got so much population moving into it, it's gotten more regulation. But I'd say Florida is better than the Northeast states in general. But it depends on where you are in the Northeast states. Like, you don't want to be around New York City, but if you're upstate New York, fine. But then again, if you're in upstate New York, you're dealing with some radically severe cold. This is what gets me about this guy Joel. It's like, I mean, I don't know if he's just selling a damn book or what, or he's just selling places or what. I don't trust his advice, to tell you the truth. Now, but Arkansas and Missouri would be high on my list. In other states, actually the southern states, when you're talking northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, they'd be good. Tennessee would be a good state. But Tennessee, like, you could find bad places, Memphis, Nashville, not good. But you're talking about a lot of places in Tennessee are good. Now, actually, when you're talking about in the United States, on the east, any one of these states from Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, into Georgia and Tennessee along the Appalachian Range would be good in the mountains for the most part. Even though some of those areas are starting to get built up, generally speaking, they're a lot less built up than they're a lot less built up than other areas of the country. Plus, you got water. You got water. It's most of the places in the mountains have streams. There's plenty of wood for fireplaces and stuff. It's not too damn warm, though. That's the thing. It does get cold up in those higher elevations. For every 1,000 feet you go up, temperature drops 5.2 degrees on average. So if you're up on an elevation of 3,000 feet, you drop 15.5 degrees, 15.6 degrees. What do you want? What do you want? And this is a girl cat. It's a girl cat, and this girl cat's gonna get some treats right now. Again, here. So anyway, but the thing is, What I'm getting the impression with this guy Joel, he's selling something, not just books. He's selling newsletters, he's selling subscriptions, and he's selling properties. And I think he's all connected into the real estate. And he might be, and since he's a Mormon from Utah, I'm assuming he is, I don't know, he's got some kind of angle. You know what I mean? He's got some kind of angle. I mean, he loves Mitt Romney, which ought to tell you something right there. I hate Mitt Romney. And I'm a Republican. I can't stand Mitt Romney. Um, I think Utah would be a good strategic location place, too. But, when you look at it, you could say there's only a few roads going through here, and there's no way to go through. And, actually, his analogy of Florida, which is only two roads going north-south, is kind of BS because, even when you're talking California, you could say there's only one or two roads going north-south, too, because of the mountains. But, when you're talking about, well, Florida's so damn flat. I mean, there's 4x4 trails you can go through backwoods for crying out loud. But why would you want to leave? I mean, as long as you're away from a populated area and you're not going to freeze your butt off, it's not that bad. The problem is Florida's getting extra crowded. That's the problem. And I think if there ever is a major problem, all the people from the cities are going to go and flood into the areas where it's open right now, and those places are not going to be open. So you really want to be the number one rule is to get away from, as far away from the major cities as possible, irregardless of the state. Like I said, you could be in a densely populated, because you also got to look at it like this. A state could be having a very high population, like Florida's got a very high population, but it's not the most densely populated state. And you're talking about a very densely populated state. It's New Jersey. But when you're looking at New Jersey, you can actually be in parts of New Jersey that aren't that densely populated and are pretty much inaccessible. I mean, if you're going to go in New Jersey, God, look at this place. It's freaking pretty packed, man. But, if you're going to be going across, say everybody from the city decides to get on Route 80 and go west, they ain't going to go nowhere. Now, if you're up here you're off the beaten track of Route 80, and you're up in Sussex or Warren County, and you're far enough off the road, you're not going to see nobody. They're not going to get that far. Nobody's going to get that far on foot. But this place is a pretty cold place, too. But when you're talking out west is an inhospitable area. It's not easy to live out there. Even when they sell land in Wyoming today, when there's no catastrophic problem with the economy and stuff, they'll tell you it's a tough place to live. I mean, it's way easier to live out in the outback, if you want to put it that way, in the Appalachian Mountains around in North Carolina, South Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, or North Georgia than it is out in Wyoming. Wyoming is tough country to live in, man. It's not that easy. You got to really know what the hell you're doing. And when you're looking at the roadways, there's not many major interstates going through. There's no major interstates going through anywhere, for crying out loud. You could say the same thing about any state. But the deal is when you're talking about mountainous states, and you don't have any option to get around the mountains. You got to take the interstate. I would thoroughly disagree. I'm not really keen on Florida for a survival state. I think there's a few bright spots about it. Overall, I don't think it's very good. South Florida would totally suck for a survival state, But up around in the Ocala National Forest area, pretty good, pretty good. It's far enough away from any kind of military bases. I mean, there's a bombing range there, but they never use it. There's no military importance over here. Like I said, there's loads of gators. I mean, you shoot a couple gators, man, you're gonna have enough meat to last you like freaking year. And You got plenty of water, and you got it's not it's hot, but then the heat is not going to kill you as long as you got water to drink, and there's plenty of fresh water to drink in Florida. As opposed to if you're dealing with 20 below zero weather, you're going to have a problem. I think even living up in Northeast Tennessee, if I go up there, that's going to be tougher to live up there than it is where I'm at now. There's a lot less people. I'm talking about is when you're talking about, a cataclysmic problem with the economy. Now, I'm not putting doom and gloom out here because I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's an axiom. All civilizations that lost their basic code, they fall apart. It's not like, and that's basically what we got today. I mean, what we have now is it's worse. I mean, unless you're talking about Babylon, you know, but you're talking about even pagan times before Jesus was around, whatever, or before people knew any kind of religion. I mean, people had a better moral code as the tribes of Germany, for crying out loud, that were never really conquered by the Romans, or maybe a little bit. They had a better moral code than what we got going today. And it's like that's to me is why I think things are going to fall apart. And I would rate, but I wouldn't rate a state in its entirety. I think Missouri and Arkansas would be much better than the states out west. But then again, if you're familiar with where you are, say for instance, you grew up in Utah and you got a ranch and you know everything there is about the ranching and you know how to survive out there and you know the whole everything about the land. You got access to water, you got access to fuel for fireplace or whatever the hell you got to do, wood burning stoves. You're fine. Thing is, you got to actually be adapted to where you are before it to actually be worthwhile. In other words, he's given like this relocation advice, and it's like there's a lot of options. It's really like you got to understand, you got to get your crap together wherever you go. I mean, if you got, I don't know, if you're out in Wyoming and you're out there in the middle of nowhere, fine. But if you decide I'm going to build this place in Wyoming because Joel said this is going to be my strategic location, and I'm going to go there, and it's going to be all planned out, I think that's a rotten plan. I think you need to have everything in line where you are right now. And if that place where you are right now sucks, you got to get the hell out of there, period. It's not like get a strategic location place and then move at the last minute. And you notice my cat isn't meowing no more because I gave her treats and she didn't even eat them all. What a yo-yo, man. She's spoiled. Anyway, but Idaho, I mean, I can't knock any one of these places, but he's very hot on like Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Dakotas, Montana, Oregon, or maybe. And I'm like, if you're from the East Coast and you go out there, you're gonna die. I don't give a damn how much money you gave this guy for a real strategic location place, because you're not gonna know what the hell you're doing. If you're from the East Coast, and I mean, say you're not in New Jersey or whatever, or say you are, say you're in New York City, the best thing for you to do is get a place up in the Catskills or something like that, or Vermont. Not perfect, but not extremely far away. In a place that you can understand, say you're not living there, but what you want to do is live there. You want to be out of the area. But I don't think the world's going to fall apart right away, but who the hell knows? I don't know. I personally think that during the Trump administration, he said, make America great. We're going to have the biggest, not him doing it, but we're going to have the biggest economic calamity going because they're going to pull the rug out from underneath him. And he might be an Illuminati plant for all I know. I mean, even though I couldn't stand Hillary Clinton, I don't trust none of these guys anymore. None of them. Zero, zero, zilch. But and no matter what the hell you do, I mean, it's going to be screwed up. It's going to be screwed up. Um, I personally like Northeast Tennessee, but North Carolina could be fine. Virginia could be fine. Kentucky could be fine, as long as you're away from the civilization. Usually the mountain areas are good, but then there's disadvantages and advantages to mountain areas. One of the problems even with Tennessee, you can have these flash floods, right? And it gets cold in Tennessee. It's not. Alabama actually would be very good. Northern Alabama, not southern Alabama, northern Alabama, up in this area, close to Georgia. Northern Georgia would be an excellent place, and because you got it's not extremely cold yet. It's kind of like a mid range weather. I personally disagree with a lot of. I mean, unless of course you're really from Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and you're used to what you got to do to survive out there. Fine, but to tell people, hey, I have a strategic location plan for you, and you know who the people he's really targeting? People with money. And where do people with money from? They're from East Coast usually, right? New York City area, Chicago area, maybe down in Miami, maybe in Sacramento, California or something, right? Right? I don't know. And these kind of people, if they go out to, I don't give a damn how much preps they got in their strategic relocation home, they're not going to survive long term. No way in hell. No way in hell. So, I think this guy's just a big sales pitch guy, to tell you the truth. I don't really trust the guy. I mean, every place could be good and bad depending on where you are and how you know things, what you know about doing what. Um, you know, it's like to me, I would definitely, from what I know, and I know a few things about being self-sufficient. I would be like, I wouldn't want to be out in Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Nevada. I wouldn't be. I went through those areas, man. West Texas. God, man, it's freaking like being on the moon. And I don't see how you could survive out there. That would be really rough. I would take North Central Florida over any of those places. Although I know there's problems with that too. But at least there's water and there's trees and plants and gators to eat. After you blast them a couple times with the gun. Um, hey, you know what? They're no longer protected. If I got to eat, man. Gators chicken food, right? Chicken. But, he's like, what I'm figuring is he's got a network of real estate agents that he's all hooked up with, and he's all in Utah, and he's all in this area. But I can see one big problem with this damn place up here is Yellowstone. And also some of the predictions in California of huge earthquakes and stuff. There could be something horrendous that happens out here, in this area. You know, which would make it. I mean, the other thing is too. Say we go into this grand solar minimum, which I don't see it coming yet. I know I saw the theories about the sunspots and lack of sunspots and zero sunspots. And we're supposed to get a real lot colder, especially in the Northeast United States. But even the West is probably going to get colder too. It's going to get somewhere colder, right? I mean, these places are already cold as anything. I mean, that's why people are going to Florida. But I don't rate Florida. I don't rate tops. No way. But I wouldn't rate it dead last. That's the thing that bugs me about this guy. I mean, he talks about it's inhospitable, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's inhospitable without electricity. So is everywhere else, just about. But probably the best places that are a medium. Well, northern Georgia and northern Alabama. and extreme western South Carolina, and a lot of Tennessee, Arkansas, and Missouri. Probably Arkansas. Arkansas up in the northwest area in the Ozarks. That that's a good spot. Missouri's very excellent, excellent. Kentucky could be excellent too. But you also have to remember, even though if say there's this economic collapse, when you're talking about the northwestern United States, that might as well be an island. I mean, I know like you talk about Alaska is basically an island because everything has to be shipped in there, but when you're talking about a lot of these remote areas, and I mean, yeah, the major cities get everything, but they're only fed by, you know, an interstate. You know what I mean? I mean, look what you got out here. You don't have that many interstates, and it's not like you see. Well, see, I know about Florida more because this guy he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. There are there are more than one. When you look at the map here, like north south, you got 301 that goes north south. It's not just 95 and 75. You got 301 and you got 19. But then when you're looking at all these other roads, you still got a loads of other roads going through there. Plus you got Jeep trails. There's Jeep trails going through this damn place all over the place. There's roads all over the place going through here. And you're talking like, it's like, I'd agree with South Florida. Don't go to South Florida. But, you know, a lot of this area, and actually a lot of this area is a lot higher up than you think. It's not real high, but being 100 feet up in elevation and 30, 40 miles inland, and you got, the elevation goes from like 50 feet to 110 feet to down to 50 feet to 110 feet. There's not going to be no tidal wave that's going to get in the middle there. I mean, it would have to be a tidal wave that's like 2,000 feet high or something, and we've never had one of those ever. But then, if you're going to be thinking if that's that crazy, well, as far as I know, there could be an earthquake in the middle of Appalachia too. I mean, how the hell that's not going to happen? I mean, even when you're talking about, crazy things that could possibly happen, um, I could even argue against, anywhere near the Mississippi because, the Madrid fault line, right? I mean, that's the kind of garbage that nowhere's 100% safe, man. It's just the way it is. That's just how it is. But where I think is the best overall states is Missouri, Arkansas, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, western South Carolina, much of North Carolina in the west, western part of Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. I would lean more towards um, the southeast. And even when you're talking about the northeast, if you're talking about you're going to do an escape route to upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Oh, those places are cold as all hell. They're cold in September. They're cold. You freeze your butt off in September. And just not it's tough to live up there, man. Michigan is really cold. Snow belt. But then again, like if you understand your area and you already have your preps for your own area. In other words, if you can't get your preps right for your own area, you should relocate and just relocate and get the hell out of here. You shouldn't have a bug out strategic location thing that you paid for that I'm going to go to in the case of an emergency. That's BS. You should get the hell out, period. I think, I mean, snow was a lot of fun when you're not getting sick of it after a while, but Michigan is pretty rough for snow. Um, I think one guy that got a really good job up there, he worked for a heating company. It's like, yeah, job security up the yin yang, man. He went up there for that reason. But you deal with a lot, and like a lot of these northern states, they're not. I mean, like I said, it's easy if you've been there and you've been there your whole life. But even so, you got your metropolitan areas in all these, even in these western states. You want to stay the hell away from them. But none of these states are that easy to live in. And I smell a rat big time because old Joel is from Utah, and all the realtors are all around him, and he's telling you, oh, these strategic locations all around here. And one thing that bugs me though is Yellowstone. I mean, it's not just Yellowstone. I mean, even in California, FEMA's predicting that there's going to be this tremendous earthquake in California, which maybe is not going to affect, Montana and Wyoming and Utah, but then again, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's going to put enough garbage in the air to affect the climate for like 2 years. I don't know. I think a lot of these people on the internet. I'm talking about it. I'm just talking off the cuff, right? You heard me with my cat meowing for more treats. She's so spoiled. I'm talking off the cuff here, but I'm giving you common sense. Number one rule is if where you are is a rotten place to be in a case of a problem with the economy, and if you're in the middle of a major metropolitan area and you're worried about what's going to happen, you should get the hell out, period. You shouldn't be like betting on getting out of there and having a bug out shelter somewhere else. You want to be gone. You want to be out of the area completely. Um, Number two is wherever you go to, you got to get used to everything you got to do. In other words, you don't want to go to something so radically different that you're totally unfamiliar with it, because you're not going to be able to figure it out easy. Me, I'm a little more used to the green woods of the east side of the nation. I've been out west. I've seen like, the Sierra Nevada, California. I've seen, the 29. What do you call that? Death Valley. I've seen out going through Nevada and Utah and Colorado. I wouldn't want to be playing survival out there, even if I had, land and a well and crops, because I'm not familiar with the weather changes and what goes on out there. I didn't grow up in those areas. I grew up in New Jersey, and when I grew up in New Jersey, I was familiar with the woods and camping and making fires and stuff. But I wouldn't feel that uncomfortable going to, say, Tennessee, North Georgia, or something like that. It's not that different. But I'm also familiar with New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont, and upstate New York. Um, Man, I wouldn't want to be bugging out to up those areas. That would be a very tough survival. So, and I think it is reality, and it's not fear mongering, that we are hitting a, a problem. Because, like I said, every society's always had these set of codes. I mean, no matter what the hell they were. I mean, even if it was like, you had to sacrifice a virgin every year to the god Mumu. I don't know. I mean, they always had something. Today, it's like anything goes. Everything is just totally whacked out. And that to me is a surefire sign that everything's going to go down. It's not going down yet because it's still working on the remaining skeleton of everything that's been built up over the last several hundred years. But it's rapidly falling apart. And I don't think it's going to take that much for it to fall apart. And Trump might be an Illuminati agent, for all I know, if you want to lose it, for lack of a better word, that he's going to be the guy that ushers in, I don't know, major conflict, and I don't know. I think Hillary would have anyway. I mean, Hillary's a nut. We were probably in a major conflict. I mean, no, who the hell? I mean, they're both freaking in. You know what I mean? They're both in with the freaking money. I'm not too keen on Florida, but I wouldn't rate it dead last. But like I said, if you grew up in Florida and you know all about cattle raising and you know all about crocodile hunting, you're fine. If you grew up in Maine and you know everything about where all the backlogging trails are and where the moose are, where the fish are, you're fine. But you don't want to go just jump out of a major city and, you know, go somewhere else. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, you're not going to be able to do that. And this is what Joel is telling you to do. Hey, geez, strategic location. What do you want, Cat? What? She wants to go outside again. I don't know what that is. I ain't letting her out. That's where she gets bit. She stays inside at nighttime. But I think, well, like I said, everything's got to, it all depends on you, the individual. Um, but Missouri and Arkansas, parts of Missouri and Arkansas are tops on the list. Northern Alabama, Tennessee, Western North Carolina, Western South Carolina, they're pretty tops. But Louisiana could be good as long as you're not down by New Orleans, right? She wants to go outside. This is what happens. I'm going to be cooped up in a survival thing with a cat. Here, come here. I got enough treats to last her freaking months. Tell you the truth. I got kitty cat survival food. Eat, munja cat, right there. She can shut up now. Tell you the truth, I got a 4-foot mountain of cat food plus like 8 monster-sized, jumbo-sized treats boxes and other boxes of cat food that are Whiskas and 2 giant bags of Flavor Burst dry stuff. My cats are survivalists, whether they know it or not. But, I think this guy's just selling you a bunch of crap, to tell you the truth. I think one golden rule, though, is this. Avoid homeowners association, gated community places, because those kind of places are going to be loaded with idiots. And when something goes down, those kind of people are going to wind up being your worst nightmare and enemy. You know, the type of people that want to be protected. What? This cat is amazing. And they got that all over, even in Georgia. You got that in the mountains of Tennessee. You got that in North Carolina, in the mountains. HOAs, property associations, gated communities. Tell you the truth, when I got my land up there in Tennessee, I stayed the hell away from that. I don't got any restrictions. But on the flip side, well, it's not too bad. It's on a road and it's got a stream on us. It's got a creek or stream on one of the borders. But as far as that's something you got to stay the hell away from, big time. Stay the hell away from gated communities, property owners association, homeowners association, because you got little dictatorships with a bunch of freaking whiny, freaking dependent weasels that rat you out on every little stupid thing. What do you want, cat? Here. Wish I could show it to you. You look at my other videos for Gold Digger and you'll find out who this cat is. Little Gold Digger. I feed her one at a time. She's a pain in the ass, man. She's a nice cat. I really like her, but she's a girl. Right? Fuzzpot. Anyway. But, we'll have to feed you some humans if you ever have to go to survival. We'll go get some politicians. We'll grind them up and make them into cat food for you. Alright? I'm a nice guy when it comes to cats, but not a nice guy when it comes to people. Here you go. So anyway, I'm probably going to get the hell out of Florida, though. I think I'm pretty sure of it because even though it's nice and warm and sunny and blah blah blah, if half the people moved out of this state, I would stay here. I think it would be pretty good. But they keep moving down here, and I don't like that. They're filling this place up too fast. And if I wait around another 5, 10 years, it's going to be like wall to wall people, and that's probably when the shit's going to hit the fan. So I plan to be out of here by then. And I'll probably be up here in the northeast part of Tennessee. So, right there, Miss Gold Digger, you going to be coming up there with me, right? You have a new cat house up there and stuff, huh? A 50-year supply of freaking freeze-dried cat food and stuff with treats, huh? Yeah, you'll like that. Anyway, but the scams have been immortal. I mean, I don't want to knock Trump too much, but even this applies to Trump. I mean, Hillary's the worst piece of garbage ever, right? But a man always has two reasons for doing anything: a good reason and a real reason. You know, I mean, people got too much faith in this guy. You know what I mean? I don't even know what. I mean, I can't stand any of the other ones, but we're going down, man. USA is freaking toast. It's toast. It's toast, man. So, but it's a true axiom that the United States is going down, but people like Joel are playing games, man. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy at all. Sorry, that's just how it is. And it depends on anything. Like I said, if you're from Colorado and you understand everything there is about getting water, the mountains, what kind of food's available, how to do the heat, and you understand the land, you've been out there forever, you're fine. I wouldn't recommend somebody going from New York City to go out in Colorado and be a survivalist. I wouldn't recommend that in a million years. No way in hell. But that's what he's doing. But you know why? The guy from New York City's got the money. See what I mean? So I don't trust this yo-yo, man. Anyway, over and out.